In this week's news, Turing Robotics unveils the Turing Phone, Apple's third quarter results are announced, and Facebook is creating a digital assistant.
All this and more on this episode of Bandwidth Blog On Air. I'm Theunis van Rensburg, and next to me I've got Bryan Smith, and welcome to episode 2 of Bandwidth Blog On Air.
Welcome to Bandwidth Blog On Air, the weekly podcast of bandwidthblog.com. While an interesting news this week, if the name Tesla Motors captures your imagination, Turing Robotics, which is so named after the Enigma code-cracking mathematician Alan Turing, should do that too. The fledgling company has unveiled its flagship device, which is simply called the Turing Phone. The principle behind it is that it's meant to represent a new age in smartphone history, according to the company, beginning by both being unhackable and unbreakable, or so Turing Robotics claims.
So they're saying this is the next-gen smartphone.
Well, that's what they're marketing the Turing Phone as, Theunis, and to be honest with you, I'm not so sure if that holds true. It's a fairly generic 5.5-inch Android Lollipop smartphone. It's powered by a Snapdragon 801 processor and carries 3 gigabits of RAM. It's pretty much in line with the current crop of flagship phones at the moment, and I'm not too sure that I see a really innovative product breaking the mold here, but there is something to be said about the phone's shell, which uses a new alloy called liquid morphium.
And what exactly does that entail?
Well, this is apparently one of the first times we're seeing a liquid morphium shell on a phone. This is supposed to be a design and an alloy that Turing Phone are using to withstand a serious knock. So we're talking about dropping this from apparently second or third floor heights, and apparently it won't have a scratch at all. Whether that's true, I don't know. I've not had the phone in my hands yet.
Okay, well, it just basically sounds like they're touting it as a very durable phone. It doesn't seem to be next-gen to me in any certain way.
Well, it does have a few what I would call improvements over your current Android flagship phone. It has a fingerprint sensor, which instead of being, on the front of the phone like we'd see on the iPhone or the new Galaxy series, it's on the side of the phone for ease of use. And as well, the charging cable uses MagSafe, which is a nice step up from your average micro USB cable, which once you step on, the phone will go flying. With MagSafe, at least the cable will detach.
Well, that does sound interesting. I just think that it sounds like a marketing ploy from their side, calling this the new revolution or the next step in smartphone evolution. What do you think are possibilities for new smartphones in terms of a big jump forward?
Well, it sounds small, but I think the next big thing will be USB-C. We're seeing that with the new Apple MacBook, and I think that's something which is likely to be introduced on forthcoming Android phones. I think we're going to have to wait until Android M is out to sort of suss out where the OS is going. I know Android M is supposed to be a very minor sort of security stability fix, and Lollipop introduced the more huge aesthetic upgrades to Android. But I think, to be honest with you, I think with smartphones, at least Android smartphones as far as I can tell, we're going to be seeing more of the same for a little while.
I agree. I think there's very little out there that's really new and exciting and innovative. So we would like to see, even if it's just in the form of an indestructible phone, as they call it, something new in the market.
Well, what they're calling this is it's called a cipher phone, being the next step up from a smartphone, and it is certainly priced in the spectrum of a revolutionary phone. It's expected to be positioned at a premium $610, so it's not for the faint of heart or light of wallet. In other related news to do with premium prices, Theunis, I've heard that Apple's done surprisingly well in their quarter 3 reports.
Well, it depends on who you ask. I wouldn't say it's surprisingly well. They've done very well. And we're expecting their results on the 21st of July for their third quarter, so the third fiscal quarter, which ended on the 30th of June. We do have some reports that the results may actually be even better than we thought it would be. It seems that they're selling about 50 million iPhones in a quarter now these days, which is astonishing. It's up 40% from the same period last year. And they're also selling 5 million Macs, which is a big improvement. The only place where they are shrinking a little bit is in iPads, but we've seen this trend in tablets all over the world.
Well, that news is certain to make Apple investors happy, but what can we say about Samsung's inevitable response?
Well, they really do need a strong response. Their stock price has been under pressure. They haven't sold as many smartphones as they would have liked, and they are preempting the launches of the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus, or whatever they're going to be called. It seems like they're going to launch the Galaxy Note 5 much earlier than previously expected. So usually we get this new device in September sometime, and they announced it at IFA. But it seems that they're going to preempt the new iPhone launches, and they'll be releasing it in August this year.
So, Theunis, what can you tell us about the actual phone? We've seen that we've had a snapshot leaked of it. So what do we know about its specs, or is there anything interesting going on inside?
Well, interestingly enough, we have a couple of rumors and a couple of leaks and specs, but nothing is concrete. So we've got different sources saying different things. In terms of design, I think we can definitely expect something that'll look an awful lot like the Galaxy S6, and it'll just have that stylus port. Other than that, we're not 100% sure which rumors we can believe and which we can't. Other than that, we're not quite sure which rumors are true and which aren't. But on the hardware front, it seems like they will be using their own Exynos processors again, right?
Well, that's the news, and we've already seen a move away from Qualcomm Snapdragon processor in the latest S6. And there was also a leak of Samsung's intended round smartwatch, which is apparently also going to feature an Exynos processor. What does that mean for the firm in general, moving to that new kind of processor?
Well, it is actually one part of the business that's doing really well. So they've started manufacturing their own chips. They started a couple of years back, and they pushed it a little bit in their lower tier products to see how it would do in the market. It wasn't too successful, but they sorted out all of the performance issues, and then they plugged it into the new S6 flagship. So it seems that it's going well, and it seems like other smartphone manufacturers might actually start using their processors as well. In other news, it seems that Facebook is also delving into the realm of virtual assistants.
Well, that's right. By all means, and from a recent leak, we can tell that Facebook are developing an intelligent virtual assistant that's going to be integrated into Messenger, or what Facebook likes to refer to as its Messenger platform, which is a range of services that integrate into the Messenger app. Now, from what we know, the project is codenamed Moneypenny after James Bond's boss M's assistant. And Moneypenny is aimed at assisting interactions between users of the social network and pages. Specifically, she's going to facilitate users' queries over purchases made on the site.
So then it means that it's not really a direct competitor for, let's say, Siri, Cortana, or Google Now.
At the moment, it doesn't look like that. There might turn out that Facebook might integrate similar features to maybe Google Now in the Messenger app at a later date. But what it looks like now is that Facebook is trying to make waves in the service industry. And what they're trying to do is sort of become an Amazon of sorts between Facebook users and pages of brands and commercial vendors.
So is it only going to be actual pages on Facebook itself, or could it be some profile somewhere else outside of Facebook?
I think what we'll see in the beginning is that it'll likely be linked to Facebook pages at first. And what Facebook might do is that they might roll out to the feature like other sites. We might see, for complete example, we might see Amazon develop integration with Moneypenny. So you can browse through Amazon's stock on Messenger, for instance, and you can use the service to liaise with whoever's making a sale on Amazon to find out more information about the product or the service.
Review Spotlight, where we discuss our thoughts on the latest review devices to reach our hands.
As a follow-up to last week, Brian, you're still using the AG Mobile Ghost, and you mentioned last week that you didn't really like the fact that it ran stock Android. Do you want to expand on that?
Yes, I've entered into my second week now with the Ghost, and I'm very much enjoying it, but that issue of that absolute stock Android is still a bugbear for me, and I'll tell you why. Because let's pretend for the average consumer on the market who's going to go to Cell C and buy this phone. They're going to get it, and it has absolute stock Android on. So it's none of the conveniences that you're going to find on, let's say, the Galaxy S6. Now, many people complain about Samsung's use of TouchWiz, but what that does is it very easily introduces a range of sophisticated features to the average consumer. Now, you and I, when we get an Android phone, we're likely going to go play around with a custom launch or our own icons or things like that. The average user is, to my mind, going to be stuck with the stock Android. And it doesn't quite complement the phone. If it were stock Lollipop, I'd be slightly more enthusiastic about it. But stock KitKat, as we know, is quite stark. Some icons carry over from Ice Cream Sandwich. So it's actually, in essence, kind of feels like a dated phone, even though it's, by all comparisons and standards, not.
And on that point, do we know if it's going to be receiving a software update anytime?
Unfortunately, we know nothing about that. I think that's ultimately up to the discretion of AG Mobile. I would really, really like to see the Ghost receive at least a 5.1 Lollipop update. I think it would really complement the phone and would bring a host of new features and probably the best parts of stock Android to a range of South African consumers. At the moment, I can't tell you that I know anything about that. I would like to see it myself. What I can tell you is that having installed my own series of launchers, I've run through Google Now and Nova, it's been really great to see the phone perform well on a non-stock launcher. And it's been great to be able to configure all the things that you would normally enjoy with Android, let's say custom icons, actions, gestures, and the phone runs them well. I'm really enjoying using it with Nova, and I've just recently switched to the Google Now launcher, which is Google's very, very basic, simplistic launcher, and I actually wish that AG Mobile could have used that launcher, Google Now launcher, as the default one.
And the camera, can you tell us anything about that?
Well, overall, I've really enjoyed the camera. It's got a really good depth of field and it focuses very well. I do miss, I use my daily driver as an Xperia Z1, and I really do miss the optical image stabilization. I think it's something that the Ghost could have used. But overall, it's a decent camera. The color reproduction is good. It's sharp. It's going to be everything you want to use on your social media, your Instagram or Facebook feed. The front camera is decent. The back camera is an 8 megapixel snapper, so it's slightly behind the current crop of flagship phones, although the Ghost is sort of positioned more in the mid-range. Overall, it's good. The experience is good. I'm enjoying it.
So would you actually recommend this device to anyone at that price point?
Well, you're going to have to wait for my review to find out, but yes, for the average consumer in South Africa who wants a mid-range phone, like a really decent, solid Android phone, I would recommend this to them. My review of the Ghost will be published on Bandwidth Blog on Monday, so do keep an eye out for that.
And not only that, a couple of days later after the review lands, we'll be launching a competition and you'll be able to win one of the AG Mobile Ghost smartphones. Stay tuned to Bandwidth Blog and join us next week for episode 3 of Bandwidth Blog on Air.
You've been listening to Bandwidth Blog On Air, the weekly podcast of bandwidthblog.com.